Today, MJ shares his story in this 12th icebreaker. So if we could just please stand and give a round of applause for the toughest boss.
Thank you. Ready, Brenda? 25 years ago, I met this man. Robert Worsham was his name. He was a kind of an eccentric elderly gentleman. Golden gray locks, curly. Was a spitting image of Colonel Sanders with the goatee neatly shaved, and he always played with it. Right down to the very light suits. Some people said he was downright mean, but I admired Toughest Boss for 3 reasons. Right in the very beginning, he impressed me like no other. He sported 5 half-carat diamonds in a row on his gold band that demanded respect. About the 2nd or 3rd day I knew Toughest Boss, he got up on the conference table just to show off his $400 Bruno Magli shoes. Real impressive. But the 3rd thing that really got me with Toughest Boss is one day before the sales meeting, Bob was sitting there holding the keys to his Porsche 911. Son, would you mind parking my car for me? I left it out on the curb. Wouldn't want to get it towed. So for any of you that ever driven a Porsche 911, I kind of remember him saying, don't take it for a spin around the business park if you want. Just don't do more than 60. I got it in 1st gear. I popped it in the 2nd gear. My head went back like I was in a Nassau shuttle. I tried to get it into 3rd, but I backed out of there. Fellow Toastmasters, Toughest Boss became my hero that day. For the next year, I was treated to my own personal motivational speaker every day at 3 o'clock. I learned some lessons from Toughest Boss. Today I only have time to tell you 3 of them. But the very first one is be prepared. We were salespeople. I was 28 years old. I was a young whippersnapper salesperson, full of fire and vinegar. I ate up everything that Toughest Boss told us. But if you were not prepared in Toughest Boss's sales room, if you came in without sales, Toughest Boss would make you give the presentation. He would tear people up. I seen women cry, fold their kits. I seen young salesmen run out of the room and quit. It was awful. But then Toughest Boss would pick somebody with a sale the night before and ask them to give their presentation. I used to love it when he'd ask me to give my presentation. It's been over 25 years, but I can give that presentation today. Very first page. The Military Benefit Association was established by the military, for the military, to protect the military. Page 2. Our board of directors, made up of Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. Who better to know and to be able to protect the needs of the military service member? I know that presentation because I gave it over 2,000 times. Life lesson number 1 from Toughest Boss. Be prepared. Know your presentation. Practice your presentation. Own your presentation. Life lesson number 2 from Toughest Boss. If you want to get ahead in sales, sometimes you got to work a little bit on Sundays. Now, Toughest Boss was a storyteller, and we heard stories about selling all kinds of things. In the 60s, Toughest Boss was driving around the southern states in Cadillacs, selling country and western music, booking venues for country and western music. Tons of exciting stories from that. In the 70s, Toughest Boss was running crew, knocking doors with Encyclopedia Britannica. My favorite story that Toughest Boss told, though, was back in the 50s, when Toughest Boss himself was a young whippersnapper salesman, full of fire and vinegar, selling color TVs at Sears and Roebuck. One day, the local hotel owner walked in and stroked a check for 350 TVs. The check was good. Friday came along, commissions were paid. Toughest boss, never seen this amount of money. So he took his fiancée down to Jared, put a ring on it. Right next to Jared was a travel agency. Off to Las Vegas that afternoon they go, eloped. And can anybody tell me what happened when they came back on Monday?
Check bounce.
Oh, funds were good. Funds were good. Good guess. A lot of people guessed, oh, an annulment or a divorce or whatnot. None of that happened. But what happened was Bob got a phone call. Bob, found a better price somewhere else. We're going to cancel that order. Thank you. Click. Toughest boss told us it took 7 years of working on Sundays to pay back commission on 350 color TVs. Life lesson number 2, you want to get ahead in sales? Sometimes you got to work on Sunday. Life lesson number 3, don't go home early. One day, Toughest Boss was particularly mad. He had a pad of paper and a pen. Smoke was coming out of his nose. Slammed it down. Andy, I need make, model of your car and your home address. Before I give away any leads tonight, everyone's going to give me that information. I'm hiring Pinkerton Security Patrol. They've got 10 cars on the streets of San Antonio every night. You don't go home. I'm good. Put that away. 10 cars every night in San Antonio on the streets. Don't dare come in this office tomorrow without a sale and a report from Pinkerton saying that your car was in your driveway at 8 o'clock at night. The Pinkertons? Come on, man! What is this? The Wild Wild West? Well, it is San Antonio, Texas. So we couldn't go home. He said we're going to do that for 2 weeks. We couldn't go home. Some of our guys found the Cowboys Dance Hall. Some of our other guys found the Thirsty Horse Saloon. Not me. I took Toughest Boss's advice. I went back to appointments that weren't home 2 weeks ago, 2 nights ago, and 2 months ago. I remember one gentleman off of Marbuck Avenue, never did sell him, never did show him the program, but I put his next door neighbor in the program, I put the woman above him in the program, and the person next to him, because I went back to his house so many different times. Life lesson number 3, don't go home early. Now, Toughest Boss is no longer with us. Robert Worsham, I believe, like many of you probably do believe, when you die, you leave a little bit of yourself with the people that you've touched. Bob, you touched me right here. Those 3 life lessons. Be prepared. Sometimes you got to work on Sunday. And don't go home early. Make me the salesman I am today. Mr. Toastmaster.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and have a 1 moment of silence. Find those